Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hey everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. Joining me on the show today for a chat is Jay Putty. Hi Jay.
Hello, Miss Demi. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Oh, better than I deserve.
Goodness. Well, I'm super excited you're joining me on the show today. We have lots to chat about, including your new EP, Mountains and Valleys, which we will get to. But first, can you please share with the listeners a little about yourself and your journey in music so far?
Yeah. So my name's Jay Putty, like the silly kind. I usually like to incorporate that joke when I can. I kind of started writing out of like 11 years old. But as somebody who's like lived in Nashville now for like 10 years, a lot of people have they started their, I guess their creative or musical journey, doing like covers or like doing like YouTube now is like a big thing or something like that. But I started in metal bands because I was an angsty teenager. And then when I was like 18 years old, I was in a pop rock band that did like Warp Tour, all that kind of thing, and realized really quickly that I actually really loved to like write songs, not just like play in them. So I ended up moving to Nashville shortly after that, and my career spanned everything from major label K-pop to working with some great country artists here in Nashville on Big Loud, and now just a lot of like film and television stuff. Working with everybody from like Busch Gardens, DraftKings, Ralph Lauren, and so many more that it's kind of like wild to think about at this point.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I would love to hear more about your songwriting process.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Crazy process, really. I feel like now that as old, the older I've gotten, I feel like I've gotten like in a weirdly like more disciplined place where most of the time now I like to start from like certain titles or certain themes. That way I have like a full cohesive story to like kind of like think of, like especially like if I'm writing in like the country space. I always like to look at titles or something like that so I can flip like the meaning of what it is. Kind of like a song that I love to go back to all the time that like does like a really good quote unquote like flipping of the title is that "Marry Me" by Thomas Rhett. I think it's such a beautiful uh and poignant story that allows you, after the first listen, that first chorus, and you're like, dang, that's what he means. And it opens up the whole like beginning of the song to think differently. So my process kind of like stems from there, but it also stems from uh, like, what am I writing for? Who am I writing for? Is it for me? Is it for K-pop? Is it for country? Something like that. Because at the end of the day, what I want to do is always serve the song and never like bulldoze anything. My goal as a songwriter and a producer is to really kind of come into a session and be as much of a chameleon as possible. Like, I want people to go, I feel like Jay had his hand in writing this, but I can't tell, because that to me always allows the artist to kind of like have their like moment and shine. And I'm more of a conduit versus um a bulldozer. I've had some of those rights before where some people are just so otherworldly talented, they just come in and like they steamroll the entire right, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm not doing anything today. And like, I don't ever want that, especially if I'm working with an artist, because I want their voice to be the one that's heard.
Yeah, that's great. And I love what you said about titles. I too really like flipping the title or even having the title mean different things based on how you're framing
Mhm.
it from verse to chorus. And I think it's super cool. I think
Yeah.
titles hold so much potential. And I think that over the years, I've been much more aware of titles and trying to make them unique and, jump out at people. You want to grab
Yeah.
somebody by a title. And I think that's an area where I think songwriters can overlook it because say they start with a chorus and oftentimes songwriters will take like the last line of the chorus to use as the title. But if that's not a super strong line, then your title's not super strong either. So I think more attention should definitely be given to titles.
Oh, 100%. Like, you're right on the money, because I think of what. like you even that story about like just using the last line of the chorus and default to the title reminds me of when Dan and Shay on their very first album they had a commentary on it for a song called Park and Break, and it's like the third or fourth line of the chorus, not the last one,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
were like,
yeah.
yeah. And their label was like, "Oh, so the song is gonna be called this?" Is like, "No, it's gonna be called Parking Brake because it's like the most unique." And like you said, it jumps out at you. And if you're trying to cut through the noise of social media or Spotify playlist or something like that, sometimes just like a cool, fun, quirky, unique title can just make you go, "Okay, like what do they mean by that?" And like
Yeah.
can get someone to like listen to it and allow a new listener to be brought into your world instead of just like another song like worth the wait or something like that, where you're like, okay, I've heard like 100 songs like that. How are you going to flip that to something else, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Perfect. So you did mention your experience in the film and TV space. So can you share a little bit more about this?
I kind of got into film and television by accident. Like my very first placement was with a Latin country artist here in Nashville called named Andrea Vasquez. Uh, for I think it was the iHeart Country Festival like 3 or 4 years, 6 years ago now. Wow, 2019. I still think that I'm on COVID time.
Yeah,
That 2020
no.
to 2020 to now, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, no.
Um, but essentially, like I'd been writing so much in the K-pop space that when the pandemic happened, everything K-pop just like dried up. And I started finding some of these like random Facebook groups here and there that were, talking about film and television and sync licensing. And I was like, oh, well, what is this? And I started diving into it, and I was like, oh, I think my songs could be great for it. Very incorrectly was like, oh my God, my songs are perfect for Grey's Anatomy. Not realizing that the songs that like do so well with Grey's Anatomy can say so much without saying much at all. So I just started like diving into it and really like kind of like started to rediscover my love of even like being an artist too because of film and television because the music that I make now uh I tell everybody it's cheesy. Like I'm very aware it's very cheesy, but I love it, and so I call it Parmesan cheese. Where it's like I'm fully aware of who I am, but like you pay a little extra for me because like I it's I all my stuff is like very happy go lucky, it's positive. There's like a tinge of melancholy underneath, but like I don't shy away from knowing exactly like who I am and like what I do. And it's kind of like why I love it so much is because I get to make this fun, anthemic, triumphant music that feels so innately and wholly myself. And then I get the benefit of like having it in film and television. Like one of my favorite songs I've ever written, it's called These Are the Moments for my last EP, The Compass, is a song I wrote about like losing my dad, as most songs on my last few records are. But it was everything I hope my dad would say to me the next time I see him again. And he was a huge golfer, like loved it. One of his favorite things he was able to do. And he always used to tell me that one day him and I would go to the Masters together. Well, that song ended up being the promo for the greatest moments of Masters history during the Masters tournament this year. And so to be able to have a song that means so much to me like that, land a placement like that is always like one of those like that's such a nice added bonus to like what I get to do. Shout out to Resonate, my incredible sync agent who made that happen for that.
Yeah, that's incredible. Congrats on that. So you did mention your sync agent. Can you give some insight into how you went about securing that kind of representation to get your songs placed in film and television?
Yeah, great question. These are so good. It's so funny that it's not like there's like a gatekeeper for this, right? Like you legitimately, anyone listening to, if you're ever like, I think my songs would be great for film and television, all you do is like Google search sync agency on Google. And how I ended up finding Resonate, who got me that placement, and Silverside, another one that I work really closely with. Because we're here in Nashville, we have a great scene of like writers and all that. I follow a lot of like different writers and artists. One, they inspire me, but also they just make great music, like Sam Tinez or Elena Cross or Michael McQuaid, my best friend, uh, that get placed. And how I found Resonate, and this was years ago. I remember seeing my friend Elena Cross, who crushes it in this world, mentioned Resonate one time, and I started staying in contact with Wendy here and there, who is the owner of it. and I had been writing a lot of songs for an artist named Tina Parole, and we got a lot of placements together. And how these are the moments got with them is just I finished this song, and for some reason I was just like, I think Wendy would really like this one. I sent it to her, and she loved it, and got it. But like how I got my sync agent, or how anyone can really do it is there are great resources online. Just look up sync agencies. I know that sounds crazy, but just look at these agencies and look at their roster and look at the placements that these artists are getting. Do you feel a need for it, right? Like a lot of people fall into the trap when they get into sync licensing that they have to make the music that's like Imagine Dragons, that's Stomp Clap, or the super anthemic hip hop, or like a certain type of like pop music. You know, like the pop music is like, come give it, come get it, I get it, like stuff like that. Where it's like, if that's not who you are, don't do that. Like there's room for anyone and everyone in the space, especially in film and television. And the best way to like start getting placements happening for you as a creative, as a writer, as an artist, is to legitimately just be the best version of yourself as possible. And if you see that some of these sync agencies don't have your style of music, don't look at it as a detriment. Look at it as a superpower because they need you. They don't have that in their catalog. And so therefore, like if you reach out and you start building the network and start connecting with some of these people and you just say, hey, I do this and I think you might need me, it's a great way of building that together.
Fabulous, so much great information. So now I would like to chat with you about your new EP, Mountains and Valleys. I love this. It's super cool. I love how you have the balance of like the instrumental tracks and actual songs. So can you share your insight into, your whole inspiration behind this project?
This is a record that kind of came at I would say a crossroads. Last year, I released two records. Rosewood, which is like the first EP I had released as an artist in like 5 years. Essentially, like beginning of the pandemic, I like stopped being an artist. Like I had like songs coming out, but they were like specifically for film and television. So like it was just like, hey, it's out because placements are happening. Like I gave up being an artist. So Rosewood happened, and then the Compass happened, and I was like, all right, like what do I do now? Like what do I have to say? Like what's the point of all of this now? Like Rosewood and the Compass were like the beginning points, and now it was like, how do I keep this going, or do I want to keep this going? And so Mountains and Valleys kind of like came as a project. It started with the song "Started Something New," where it was a song I wrote the first session after the holidays, because you know how like December, November for Thanksgiving and Christmas, like everybody just kind of like stops like music stuff for a while. And it was my first session back, and it was also my first Christmas without my dad and my grandma there. And it was one of those things where I realized how quiet uh, a house can be when you lose people like that during the holidays. And I wrote this song with my best friend Michael, who I had mentioned before, and we kind of like came together of like this. Started as like a song about seasonal depression, and like getting through that, and then it became like this like nexus point of I may have lost like these people in my life, but I've gained like a new family, like with Michael and his wife and his son, who's basically my nephew at this point. And how when it comes to grief or trauma or like any like really like crazy incident like that, you either have two choices. You either persevere or you let it consume you. And mountains and valleys is a phrase that I used to say all the time, that you can't appreciate the mountaintops if you're not down in the valleys. But really, life is about walking in between, because every day is not going to be the best day of your life. And every day is not going to be the worst day of your life. Most of the days, it's just going to be Tuesday, right? It's just going to be a day. And it, to me, like the reason why it's the healthy balance of even the instrumental tracks is I wanted those three instrumental tracks, mountains, valleys, and in between, to kind of like in a composition kind of way tell the story of like the triumph. So it starts with mountains, it's very triumphant, it's very like big, and in between, it's in the middle of the record, it literally is just a motif that over time builds but never gets any more energy than what it is. But it just like some days it adds something and some days it takes away something, and it's just a motif of it's staying right there. And valleys is kind of like a little more somber because some days life is like that. And to me, like mountains and valleys came as a project of just basically like throwing my hands up and saying that, this is my new normal now. And either I can, make the best at life and make it every day count and love the life and the time that I have left with not only my loved ones, but with anybody I get to meet along the way, or I can just let grief and sadness consume me. And I chose the latter of just trying to look for the next mountaintop and what can I achieve next and all of that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I could tell how much thought went into it because literally, even when I just looked at the track list, like we were talking about before with titles, you captured the whole concept of mountains and valleys through the titles, having mountains first, in between, in the middle, valleys in the end, and then the songs filling in the middle of that. Personally, I love in between. The production of that is so good. I love that
Thank
one.
you.
Love that one. Did you do that yourself?
Yes. So I co-produced every song on the record, but mountains, valleys, and in betweens are all ones that I just decided to do myself because it was from a composition standpoint. I wanted, even though like a lot of my programming I do like with MIDI instruments, I wanted to take time and see, can I inject some kind of like humanity and emotion into even those kind of tracks.
I'm completely obsessed. Super cool. So, how did you develop your production skills over the years?
Oh, uh, I say ADHD and a lot of time on my hands during the pandemic. So I had lost my corporate job at the beginning of the pandemic, and so I basically had like 6 months of basically just being home. And one of my buddies, Blake, showed me how to like start working Ableton. And because I had nothing but time on my hands, and I have a tendency of being an ADHD kid who, when I like something, I obsess over it over and over and over again. I basically spent like the first 3 months of the pandemic uh, producing and learning how to do that like 14, 16 hours a day. I say that like I wasn't really starting from square one though, because I've been writing and in studios with other writers and producers since I was like 13 years old. So like uh even if I wasn't like fully aware or conscious of it, I am an amalgamation of all the incredible writers and producers that I got to work with between 13 to, man, 5 years ago I was 26. So uh I kind of like honed my skills by doing that, and then uh really just allowing my own instincts to kind of take over. I'm not the greatest producer in the world, but I am sure as shit confident of what I'm doing, even if it's wrong. I would rather be wrong and just be like, well, that was my mistake, than try and like copy someone else's productions and all that. So I kind of like just learned through the years, and in a weird way, just like subconsciously absorbing all the other writers and producers I've been working with for the better part of my life too.
Yeah, that's great. Shout out to you. I think production is super fun. I could produce my stuff, but I am not a producer. I would never do my own stuff. I don't have the patience either to learn like all the music engineering stuff. So I'm like, I'll just let my producer do it. No thanks. But it's super cool how you're able to dedicate so much of your time to doing that. So just to wrap up our chat, can you please share a piece of advice with any songwriters listening?
One of my favorite pieces of advice is from my friend Randall Foster, who, if anybody has ever worked in Nashville, knows who he is. He's head of the symphonic here in Nashville. Best piece of advice I can give any songwriter: um, build a longer table, not a taller fence. The music industry has enough people who are incredibly talented. Like being able to write a great song, it's kind of like the bare minimum to be in the industry. Like everyone is great at what they do, but if you really, really, truly want to succeed, build a longer table. Invite people to be with you, be a part of your journey, not because you need them to, but because you want them to. It is a lot more fulfilling to celebrate a number one party with 100,000 people than it would be to celebrate with 10 people because you were not so great person to be around. Your talent can only take you so far, But if you are a loving, kind, selfless, and just adamant human being, success will come. So build a longer table, not a taller fence.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for that advice, and thank you for joining me on the show. Can you please share with everybody where they can connect with you online and listen to your music?
Absolutely. All of my social medias are at Jay Putty, JayPutty, like the silly putty kind. And yeah, let's chat, let's connect, and talk that chiz.
Amazing. Thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. And listeners, that is a wrap on this chat with Jay Putty. And of course, until next time,
Stay
stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.